Yo! What is up, guys? Nick Nakai here. Let's Drift Media. Thank you for coming back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome on in. So January, in 2 weeks, will mark my 1 year leaving the dealership and now being a diesel fleet mechanic, entry-level service technician. So today's video is going to be pretty much talking about that, what I think about it, pros and cons, how the pay is now versus before, and just my general thoughts on it, where I stand a year in now as a fleet mechanic. But before we get started, just want to give all of you guys a huge thank you for blowing that last video up. If you were a part of that, like, holy crap, that is the only video I've ever had that got so many views. They literally got like 100,000 views in the first week that I posted a video with like 800 comments or something. I couldn't even keep up with them. I'm still trying to get back to you guys, but wow, like, that is insane. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys, new or old, to the channel. And just to clear this up, there was no hate towards service writers. I saw a lot of people get like really butthurt about that comment I made calling them receptionists. I understand, yes, it's a difficult job. Not everyone could do it. That was not the point of the video, nor was the point of the video to deter young people from coming into the automotive industry. It was kind of just me venting the way I feel about the industry, and judging by the comments, a lot of you guys agreed with me anyways. So yeah, I just want to say that because I love being a mechanic and I really don't know what else I would be doing. It just depends where you're a mechanic. So pretty much right now what I'm doing as a diesel service technician is the job title. Really basic stuff, like really basic. Like, it's crazy because you need to be ASE Master Certified just to get this job. And just to let you guys know, there's a lot of people who even left their jobs as like a shop foreman from another shop or a dealership to be where I'm at today. So there's a pretty high requirement to get in. And then once you're in, you're really doing a lot of basic stuff. Like I said, like, I'm doing oil changes, changing wiper blades, changing air filters, fuel filters, doing transmission services and trans filters, resealing rear diffs, working on a lot of Fords, tires, changing lights, like doing a lot of small stuff that would be considered almost like, I want to say, like the lube rack of any automotive shop that I've ever worked in. So that's kind of the way I classify it. But the crazy part is that I'm making more money now doing this kind of work than I was dropping engines, doing recalls back to back, check engine diags, working at the dealership. So it's definitely a really good gig, and I'm super thankful that I got into it at the time I got into it. But besides doing those basic services, a lot of other stuff I do are, they call them DOT safety inspections. A lot of these vehicles that I believe it's, if they weigh over 12,000 pounds or more, I may be wrong, but we call them the heavies pretty much. They have to be inspected every 90 days in order to legally drive on the road. So the entire fleet, pretty much every 90 days, they got to get a whole new inspection. And by that inspection, it's really like an in-depth bumper to bumper, like basically like a really detailed multi-point inspection is the best way I could classify it as. So what exactly am I working on now? It's really a couple classifications. We call them, we'll start with the lights. We have the lights, which are basically anything pretty much like a light duty vehicle. Ford F-150s, Ford F-250s, Mitsubishi Outlanders, Ford Transit vans, the E-Series vans, a lot of stuff like that, pretty much like passenger vehicles or pretty much any vehicle, most vehicles you see driving down the road for normal transportation. We call those the lights, and we service those bumper to bumper, of course, like everything I just told you. And then we have the mediums, which would be like the Ford F-450s, F-550s, the bucket trucks that actually have a lot of equipment on them and weigh a lot more. And some of them are the ones that you are required to have a Class A to even drive these things on the road. So you guys probably seen them, like those Ford F-550s with all the little compartments on the back, like basically like a whole toolbox setup with cabinets and lockers on where the bed would be. Those, we classify those as the mediums. And then we have the heavies. The heavies are pretty much just like semi-trucks. A lot of internationals and Freightliners and a couple Kenworths. So all of those big 3-axle truck portions, and then of course some of the ones that have the hydraulic equipment mounted on the bed of the vehicle, all air brake systems, of course, and all the pretty much most, I would say almost all of them, powered by the Cummins diesel engines. So I've begun to learn a lot about those, and it's been really nice to get my hands dirty with something new. And even bigger than that, which these are like the biggest toys that we really get to touch, are link belt cranes. If you guys aren't familiar with these, I'll try and put a picture down right here so you guys can see it, but these things are massive, and it's basically just a giant crane on wheels that the crew takes them to these job sites, deploys the cranes, put the outriggers out, and just lifts super heavy stuff that these guys need to work on and build with. So those things have by far like caught my attention because they're just insane. Like, I'm talking me standing up, the tires are like up to my chin on some of these cranes, and I'm about 6 feet tall, so there's some pretty damn big pieces of equipment. Along with that, we have trailers, forklifts. The forklifts, we have some electric forklifts, some diesel forklifts, and with the trailers, it's just basically trailers. Some of them have equipment on them, some of them have like a diesel motor attached to the trailer. Some of these trailers are air brake trailers, and some are just basic little flatbed trailers that you guys probably even have at your own house. So definitely a lot of stuff, guys. Like, when I first started there, I was like so overwhelmed because I was like, oh my God, like every day, like I was so used to just working on Toyotas. So it was all Toyotas, like every system was the same. They all had the same type of hardware, same parts locations on a lot of things. A lot of things were similar. And now it's kind of like, I just dove in and it's like, okay, you might have one day be working on this trailer that has air brakes and an engine attached to it. So you're gonna have to do a service and an inspection on that. And then one day you might be doing a Ford F-150. And then maybe the next day or the same day, you might be pulling in one of these semi-tractors, big trucks to work on. So definitely a whole lot of variety. After working there for a year, of course, just doing the basic services, I've gotten somewhat familiar, so I feel a little bit more comfortable. But again, I'm not really doing any major repairs. Another thing too with these fleet vehicles, a lot of them I've noticed, they have, pretty much anything that has like a bucket attached to send a man up and send him wherever he needs to go. It's a completely different system on the vehicle. Like, it might be a Ford F550 with a hydraulic, the brand maybe Altec boom system attached to it with the bucket. So that's definitely something that's interested, because it gets me thinking like, wow, like if you ever had to work on this truck, it's like, you need to kind of know what side of the system you're looking at, because if you're looking at trying to fix the truck, you're probably going to be going to like the Ford repair manuals to try and figure that out. And then if you're working on something with the hydraulic boom system, you're going to the Altec repair manuals, and it's like two different systems and they just merge them into one truck to have that piece of equipment, and it's just pretty crazy. So on a normal day, we'll show up to work, we clock in, we all have a meeting, the entire shop just meets up in the lobby, whatever, in the main shop, and we kind of talk about the day, what we're trying to get done, who's gonna be assigned to what vehicles, and what they're gonna be doing on that vehicle. And then we pretty much just break and get the day started. One thing that is very different is that a lot of these vehicles are not parked in the yard or in the lot, or as opposed to the dealership, the customers bring their vehicles to you. So all the vehicles you're going to work on are in the parking lot somewhere, and you just go fetch the vehicle and pull it in. I do a lot more driving now. So for example, a lot of these vehicles are parked at different locations. Usually in the kind of same city, but sometimes it takes like 45 minutes just to get, or an hour to get to this other spot where this vehicle is at that I need to work on. So I'm doing a lot more driving, because it's like, okay, I'm gonna go pick up this vehicle, bring it back to the shop, probably sit in a lot of traffic since the hours I'm working. It's like everyone's getting off work, and then I work on the vehicle. So I definitely don't work on nearly as many vehicles as I was doing in the past. Before, I'd probably work on like 5 to 10 vehicles at least a day. Now it's more like three to 4, sometimes 5 vehicles in a day, depending on how much driving you're doing. So that part is still pretty crazy to me. And since it's hourly, it's kind of nice knowing that it really doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could be driving to go pick up a vehicle, I could be mopping a floor, I could be putting parts away, or helping somebody else complete their job, and I'm getting paid. So I've said this before, the stress levels have just dropped dramatically, and that's one thing I really like about it so far. just not worrying, like not always like, oh, I have to be doing something, I have to be flagging hours. If I'm not flagging hours, I'm not getting paid. Now it's like, hey, I'm getting paid as soon as I step into work. Well, that leads me to the next point, is pros and cons. Pros is for sure less stress. No more waiters, no more trying to satisfy this customer because he has to go pick up his son from soccer practice by this time, even though you got to complete like a crazy job for him. Like I said earlier, I'm getting paid no matter what. So that's just another thing that leads back to the stress factor. Another point I would say is it's relatively easy in compared to what I was doing before. As you guys know, what I was doing before was a lot of heavy line, a lot of just random bumper to bumper everything, and now it's basically like I'm a lube tech. So it is relatively easy compared to what I was doing in the past. It's still a job, of course, it's still work, but to me it's not as hard work as the dealership, which is probably why a lot of people go to Fleet and never look back. As far as what I've read from the comments, everybody says it's the best choice they've ever made. Another pro I would say is, I've talked about this a little bit before if you guys have watched, but the ability to change careers. Because now working for the utility company, there is a ton of different jobs in this company, and not even related to being a mechanic. There are so many other things that you can go do and still make as much money as you're making, if not more, and even have the schedule you like, maybe at a location that you want to work at. So that's just like one thing that I really do like, is like, you never know. I'm 30 years old right now. Right now I like wrenching. I really love what I do, but you never know. Things change, priorities change, the way you see things change, and who knows, maybe I might turn 30, 35 years old, 40 years old and be like, you know what? I don't want to turn wrenches for a career anymore. I want to go do this. And that's what's really cool, is having just the opportunity to do that versus working somewhere as a technician. It's kind of like, you're a technician, you're a mechanic. There's not really any room for growth, any room for movement besides what you're doing right there. And being now where I'm at, it's like once you're in the company, it's all about seniority. So if a position opens up, that's something that you want to do. If you have more seniority in the companies than the rest of the people who went for it, then you're going to get the job. So that's just something that I'm like super grateful for, because you never know what the future holds. Now I'll get to the cons, because it's not, oh my god, it's so good, as some people say. There are still some downsides to it. The biggest one I would say is it's kind of boring sometimes, or a lot of the times. Like I said, I'm just a service technician, so doing really basic stuff, and it gets old really fast, because at the end of the day, I feel like I'm just changing oil. Okay, I'm gonna get another truck, I'm gonna change the oil. I'm gonna do an inspection on this vehicle, or I'm gonna change a tire. I'm gonna go pick up this truck and change the oil, change the fluids. So that's one thing that I really hope that I can move up to lead technician pretty soon, because, or whenever it could happen at least, since like I said, it's all seniority, because I feel like when it comes to like knowledge, pretty much any type of knowledge, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I kind of feel like I'm getting dumber, because my body and my brain are so used to just doing this mundane, simple services stuff. And I'm not really getting to like exercise that part of my brain to like actually figure things out and maybe troubleshoot, diagnose a vehicle. That's one thing that I have noticed. I feel like I'm losing some of my knowledge and I'm getting rusty. Like sometimes I'll be working on a vehicle and it has like a small electrical problem, maybe even something with the lighting, and I catch myself like thinking about it, like almost not knowing what to do sometimes. And then I just remind myself like, dude, what the hell? Like you were doing this every day. Like this is basic shit. Like, come on, like get it together. So that's just one thing that I've noticed, and it kind of scares me, because it's like, I don't want to get stuck doing this for so long to where it's like, I forget what I used to know, and I just don't want that. Another downside is the schedule. Since it is fleet, a lot of fleet jobs, it's like the vehicles that the users are using, they're using them during the day. So this is not your normal 8 to 5 job. I work what's called a swing shift, so I pretty much go in the afternoon and get off at night. So the schedule does suck sometimes. I mean, luckily I don't have kids, or that would make it even more rough. I see a lot of people that come in and they have kids and they hate the schedule, because it's like dude, I never see my kids. And that could definitely be tough, and I really understand. So fortunately for me, I don't have kids, but I still do have a girlfriend. So having that relationship definitely changes when you come into this side, because it's like you're on almost opposite schedules. So you really don't see your people as much. And it kind of sometimes just feels like you're always missing out, because it's like the rest of the world is getting off work and you see what they're doing online or whatever, you're talking to them and it's like, wow, like, yeah, I'm at work, like I'm taking my lunch break and everyone else is eating dinner with their families. So that's one drawback for sure, but I have adjusted to it pretty well. I'd say the schedule actually kind of fits me better, just because I'm not an early bird. I'm more one to stay up late and sleep in a little bit. Another con I would say is it's definitely not as fun as far as like, I would say working versus when I was working at the dealership. But then again, there are only like 7 or 8 people I work with day to day, versus when I was working at the dealership, it's like you're working with like 20 plus heads. So a lot more fun going on, a lot more joking around, I would say, and horseplay in the dealership. I mean, I know you go to work, not have fun, but that is something I do really miss, because working in the dealership, I feel like you kind of say whatever you want to say to anybody. You can mess around pretty good at work and not really get in trouble. And now, since it's union, I feel like it's a little bit more like walking on ice sometimes. It's like, oh, be careful what you say to this guy, because he's going to go tell management and then it's going to go be a big deal. So definitely kind of kills the fun factor. But I mean, I know that's something I shouldn't complain about, because like I said, it's work. But still, just a point I wanted to bring up. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the pros and cons. Next, I guess I'll just go ahead and talk about pay. Pay this year, I should break 100,000 for the year, which was my goal. And I'm not saying that just to brag or anything. I try to keep it pretty honest and open with you guys. You guys know last year at Toyota, being a flat rate tech, doing all the things I was doing, I did about 86K for the year. And now being able to break that 100, that was like a super big milestone for me. And to really look at the bigger picture, like, wow, like I'm making more money now doing less work than I was at the dealership. So that's just something that I'm super happy about. And it just gets me more excited for the future, because it's like, wow, I'm just like an entry level guy. Like imagine if I get to move up in the ranks, like how much more money I'm gonna make. So we'll see what the future holds. Besides that, get a lot more time off, get weekends off, every weekend's off. If I want to work, sometimes they'll offer a Saturday, then I can go in and work and get that overtime pay, which is pay and a half. So that's nice to have the option, but not be forced to. And as well as I have a lot more vacation time than I did working at the dealership. I would say probably one of my favorite things about it is getting to learn new stuff. Like it is scary, you know, you don't know really much about what you're touching and what you're getting yourself into, but this whole year has been a giant learning curve. And if you guys know me, I like to learn new things. I like to challenge myself and get familiar with something I'm unfamiliar with. So getting to get my hands on all these types of equipment, learn about new systems, learn about how these hydraulic systems are working, learning air brakes. I got to learn how to drive a stick shift semi-truck, my Class A license. Just a whole lot of new stuff that I'm just like, wow, like, that's sick. It's honestly just been like a crazy year, and it really just like flew by. Like I feel like I was just working at Toyota like a couple months ago, but it's about to be 1 year now. So just wanted to make this video to kind of talk a little bit more in depth about it. I try to talk about it as much detail as I can. But as you guys know, for job security reasons, there's certain things that I don't want to say and possibly put my job in jeopardy. Sorry guys if you guys were used to loving those stories of all the day in the life stuff I would do at Toyota and all the stuff I'm working on. But as of right now, I'm just kind of trying to lay low, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to drop a comment what you guys think. Maybe you left a fleet, or maybe you're thinking about going to fleet. Love to chat it up with you guys, but that's all I got for you guys, so catch you guys later. Peace!